The Sunday Mirror now, and some good news for women like me, Diane.
Oh, for goodness sake. So the headline is, transgender athletes to be allowed to compete against women in new world athletics rules. So sports chiefs are all now having to come up with sort of their stance on the trans athlete and where they fit into their existing categories. And World Athletics have been doing their consultation, and this is a confidential consultation which has been leaked. So let's just underline that. This is not what they're going to set in stone yet, but this is what they've been chatting about. And they have decided that they are going to tighten the regulations on trans athletes, in that they're going to reduce the amount of testosterone that you can have in your bloodstream to sort of half, and they're going to...
A womanly level.
And then double the length of time that you need to have that lowered measure on. And that's what they're saying. So that's what they're thinking about at the moment. Because they also want to take into account athletes who have got differences of sexual development, such as people like Caster Semenya. So Caster Semenya is a woman. She's just a woman who has been born with I don't know exactly what her thing is, but I know that she is a very powerful woman with a lot of testosterone.
She's got through a genetic difference. She produces more testosterone than your average Sheila. So so she's dead good at sports.
She's really good at running.
The scientific way of putting it.
Yeah. And so that's what's happening here. But of course, this is relevant because there are lots of different sports who have decided to take a different road. Like, for example, I think it's the triathlon that have just changed the name of the men's category to open.
So it lets anybody compete in that category.
So Dan,
what do you think of this? I mean, isn't there a risk that women's sports, if transgender men are able to compete in them, and to be a transgender women are able to compete in them, and to be a transgender woman, you just need to say, I'm a woman, in Scotland, for example. Isn't there a risk that it'll just become a sort of retirement community for mediocre male athletes?
My God, I'm just terrified to even talk about this, mate. It's absolutely, it's mental, isn't it? My thinking is, and this might just be a really simple way and a dumb way of putting it, but why in the first place would they have put men and women separately in these things to compete if they didn't think that there was a difference in fairness?
Yeah.
And look, I'm not looking, if they let this happen across the board, I'm not looking forward to the boxing, because do you know what I mean? It's going to kick off in a bad way.
It's already happened. There's Fallon Fox, an MMA fighter, shattered. So the transgender MMA fighter shattered a woman's orbital bone in her face fighting her. The woman said she'd never been punched like that. She'd never felt a force, a strength like that, because obviously going through male puberty gives athletes and fighters certain benefits. You get bigger bones, greater bone density, greater strength. It's easier to parallel park outside the stadium. There's lots of
It's not just, but it's interesting because it's not just about testosterone, but that's what they seem to be taking it to.
Right.
Testosterone in the amount of testosterone in the length of time that you're on it, but there are other factors which this consultation doesn't consider, but it's not in stone yet.
Well, like the development of your body,
the bone
prior
density,
to the,
like you
to the
said.
transition.
Why don't they just have like a transgender division, or like a non-binary or whatever?
Like the Brit Awards. That worked great.